Hello, welcome to our promised episode of Mind Over Media. This is our second episode, and we are here to celebrate a Star Wars Day, which is on May the 4th, which is my spiritual holiday, personal family spiritual holiday, following last episode's Alien Day.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is our second episode, and we still don't know what we're doing. So I know how to change the background image, and I barely remembered that each time. So welcome to Jakku. We picked that because Amber loves Ray, and we'll talk more about that. I'm sorry, Mavican loves Ray. Yeah, let's see. There we go. And so we picked Jakku for that reason. It's just sitting farther up. So I'm going to bring this camera down a little bit, but so today we're going to talk about the legacy of Star Wars and how you can. I mean, at any given time in Star Wars, it could be applied to current politics. Even if you go back in the 80s, it could have been applied to whatever's going on. So we'll talk about how it applies now, and we'll talk about our personal connections and interests, and we'll talk about the high level of indoctrination that occurred this year. I am a cult specialist, and so I used my specialist skills to indoctrinate Mavican into Star Wars.
It's very true.
Yeah. I know, I shouldn't be joking about that. It's not funny that people do that, but she was not a Star Wars fan before, and look at her now.
I know, I'm sporting a Ray shirt.
Yeah. And then our podcast is about critical thinking, our whole podcast, and so we are also going to talk about, speaking of indoctrination, we're also going to talk about the importance of critical thinking and understanding media literacy. This specific episode, we might get into some of the dumb stuff.
Super dumb.
I don't know if we should
God.
decide to swear or not, but
Dumb.
that's gone on over the last few years.
I will try to contain myself, not be as critical as
Especially
I can
since we are live,
Yeah.
technically, even though right now there's no viewers. So for our 3 viewers who will eventually listen, I'm sorry if we get a little bit
passionate.
But you probably already heard it from us anyway because you know us, and so at least there's that. And then that'll be. Oh, then we'll show again. I think if you watched our last video, you will have. Sorry about the yawning. Mavican wants to do it so late, and then I start yawning. So anyway, you will know that we are in the middle of trying to migrate to our very own farm, and there's lots of steps in between, so we are all packed, and therefore all of the things that I invested money in or she invested money in are packed for these days. We expected to be moved into our own farm about 6 weeks ago, so here we are. Buying property sucks. It's really hard to do, especially in this market right now. So wish us luck as we move along. But anyway, let's get to the episode. Sorry, Mavican, you can introduce yourself. I didn't mean to talk.
As you guys know, I'm Mav. You can call me Amber, Mav, it doesn't matter. I go by Mav with my friends, and I am a newly. Should I say newly? I don't know.
I'm just a new fan.
Yeah, newish fan. I've been a fan for a while now. I like some characters. I understand the dark side better than the rebellion.
She thinks she understands the dark side.
Go Palpatine. But yeah, so I love Vader. I love Anakin, Palpatine, all the bad people. So that's me.
And I am a Star Wars fan. I have been a Star Wars fan since I could walk. Well, actually, Mavican wouldn't tell you is that she was wearing Yoda outfits when she was 3. That was one of the early signs that she might have been autistic, but actually autistic. But she did not get diagnosed with autism until about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, about 3 years ago.
Yeah, so So she did at least know of Star Wars back in her early years. And so, yeah. So that's, yeah, but I've been a Star Wars fan since I was little. My stepdad used to have a Jawa that I just absolutely loved. But he also had an elf that I absolutely loved too. So there's that. So, but his Jawa had little red eyes that would light up. And so I thought that was both creepy and cool. So yeah, I grew up on Star Wars for sure, and for me it helps me to take my mind away from my current things that are stressful. So I'm able to imagine myself actually being on a spaceship and being on different planets and stuff, and it's very helpful for me, like a little escape that I use. So.
What drew me into Star Wars, at least into this fandom, is the fact that it was so inclusive. I know I just like said a trigger word for some people, but it was one of the most inclusive like fandoms I had ever seen, where there's all different types of creatures, and people, they weren't surprised by a creature. A blue creature would walk in, and there's like, "Hey, what's up, blue creature?" And
She was surprised.
Yeah, I was super
every
surprised
time, but for that in Star Wars. But yeah,
that they were
Star
not,
Trek.
Yeah, they were not freaked out at all by creatures and robots. Oh my God, there's so many robots in it, and AI, and I am a huge AI fan, robot fan. I do more trigger words for people, but I love all that. So that's what drew me into Star Wars.
And the dark side, I have to say.
Oh yeah, and definitely the dark side. Watching the transformation of Anakin into Vader and understanding his process and knowing what it feels like to go through that. They actually show, like his process and what it's like to kind of get powered by the dark side, as my truck says.
Really? She gets so much. I told you, it's late. She gets so much attention on her truck with Powered by the Dark Side. She thinks she knows Anakin, but she misses the whole point, which is that Anakin eventually comes back. So that means that you've missed something. You've missed a clue.
Maybe.
She'll figure it out.
I think I'm a Sith.
She wants to be a Sith, but she's not really a Sith. She just wants to be a Sith against pedophiles.
Yes, and rapists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so briefly, sorry, we made a little outline because we don't know what we're doing. So outline it is. So I would say that Star Wars, it's an escape for me, and I'm able to, and like, it's kind of a future that I want, not the warring between, but I feel like there's always going to be that. Well, I guess that's the whole point of the Force, which is keeping it in balance. There's always going to be that light and dark, like push and pull. So in life, but it does serve as a good reminder as to why it's important to keep those things balanced.
You go. I'm thinking about it.
Okay. So the next segment we're talking about is, I'm sorry, I need to take a drink. This is live and I can't edit it out. So here we are.
Oh boy.
Okay, there we go.
So the cultural impact of Star Wars.
Yeah, now we're talking about the legacy of Star Wars. Yeah.
The legacy. Oh, sorry, the legacy of Star Wars. I don't know that I could speak to that. I'm a new fan.
Well, I mean, I think maybe you can speak. I can set it up, but you can speak to the current cultural impact.
Right.
So basically, Star Wars was a massive phenomenon. So when it first came out, it was episodes, for those of you who don't know, since all of the episodes are out now, it was episodes 4, 5, and 6. And that's what they were called. They were called episodes 4, 5, and 6. We're not hiding that. Those came out into the theater, and it created a huge cultural revolution. And so we had fans from all over the world just sort of flocking to this idea, and it was just a sort of what we called, not in the like bad sense, but we called it a cult phenomenon, a cult classic, right? So again, it's not in the like brainwashing indoctrination type, but just that a bunch of people were fans of it and followed it. As time went on, there was nothing for, I want to say, like maybe 20 years. There was nothing added to it. It was just those three, and we're good. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if Disney acquired it first, but three more movies were made and are promised to be made. Now, the three movies came out. The first movie, they were episodes 1, 2, and 3, which were kind of like, oh, okay, this is going to be explain some things, you know. Well, when episode 1 came out, people hated it. I mean, fans, like hardcore fans of Star Wars, hated it. And part of it was they were not prepared or ready to hear or see a backstory of Darth Vader, because for episodes 3, 4, and 5, Darth Vader's the bad guy all the way up till the very end. And so people were not prepared, nor they want to understand that Darth Vader got to be who he got to be because of his history and his past. And so that was really hard. Then episode 2 came out, which included, episode 1 included Jar Jar Binks. And everyone hated Jar Jar Binks to like an extreme degree. And I don't know, it was like a comedic relief character. But that
a children's character.
Yeah, but that made them hate Jar Jar, the episode even worse, because Jar Jar Binks, I think there was some implication, or some people tried to implicate that he was representative of
or like Southern Blacks, or Creole,
yeah, Southern
Creole
Blacks,
or something, something weird.
And so, of course,
way too far into it.
Yeah, so of course, like, people were all up in arms because of that. But I always found his character to be endearing and understood his position, even though he was a terrified little freak. He also, he was also very brave, and he did brave things. Anyway, so episodes 1, 2, 3 came out. They weren't as popular. So by the time the episodes, 7, 8, and 9 came out, there was a certain level of fatigue amongst Star Wars fans. We were kind of like, okay, what's going to happen? But then the story had veered so far from what we knew. It started telling stories of the whole galaxy and the whole empire. It just became like way bigger than the main characters of Star Wars. And that was also a shift. And shifts or changes are very difficult for fans to grasp.
Oh, goodness, yes.
But if you take a look at the story as a whole, understanding again that the both sides of every story need to remain in balance, and the story of what happens when it becomes unbalanced, and so it's just a 18 hours of trying to rebalance the force in the universe. So then after all these came out, as Disney is doing what Disney does actually really well, it started creating all these TV series and cartoons. Well, the cartoon started with fans doing, I think the Clone Wars, and a few other shows, and then Disney took over and started doing new versions of those. So, but then they started doing TV series and direct to TV movies and things like that. So people started feeling very invested, because one of the first TV series that they came out with was The Mandalorian, and of course the child, which was the species of Yoda, they caught everyone's attention, and it became a phenomenon. So now it's either Star Wars or Baby Yoda, that people talk about. So it's kind of that split, and so, but then more and more came out, Ahsoka and Andor and things like that, and just sort of expands the world and explains various aspects of the story that didn't really need explaining. But once they do explain it, then you're like, oh, that's how that fits into the story. Because Andor, for instance, you have no clue how Andor fits into the story at all until the last 5 minutes of the series. And I know Andor season 2 is coming out, so that's kind of exciting.
And so by the time I got invested into Star Wars, into that fandom, I was already in Bizarro world. So there was memes of men dressed in, Princess Leia's clothes, and she was dressed in their clothes. I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this about? And my wife's explaining to me that people feel like the male characters are emasculated because they have strong female characters in the show, and I'm like, what? No, that's not that's level of stupidity. I'm sorry, level of a lack of critical thinking is not going on. Just because somebody is strong doesn't mean you're weak because that you're standing by that character. So I was in disbelief of it. I didn't believe it was happening. I said I'll just give these shows a shot and see what I think of them because I hadn't watched them, and I watched them and I looked at the chatter that was going on online, and it was just so drastically, I mean, drastically different.
This is actually what inspired this particular podcast.
Yes, because it was so different. Like, they created a show called The Acolyte, I believe, and it was about Jedi's being bad. This particular, there's a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear a spoiler, please cut it off now. There was a female Jedi who did some bad stuff. She was just not very cool to these two twin girls, and she made some bad decisions and brought her crew along with her to make these other bad decisions.
But they don't reveal that it's the female Jedi that does all the bad decisions, until towards the end.
Yeah.
And so up until then, they make it look like these
two twin girls,
male Jedi, were making all these questionable choices.
A little bit.
And
so like
that it was the twin girls and then the group that the girls came from.
Yeah, like a little bit with the guys. Like there was a guy who was meditating, so he's not doing anything. He's meditating. He's not causing any harm. He's just floating and not doing anything. He seems to be in deep meditation or very saddened by something, but he's in a meditative state, so he's not doing anything. And then there's this guy Soul, and he's kind of like he's making some questionable choices, but he seems to be making them for one of the twin girls, right? And then they reveal that this female Jedi directed these other Jedis to do this bad thing. Well, again, I'm fairly new to Star Wars, and I start looking at the chatter on the internet, and oh my goodness, they are saying things like, this is emasculating men, and this is fight the patriarchy movies, and I just did not know what anyone was talking about. I didn't see what they were talking about. They were talking about, oh, there's lesbian witches, and then I was like, aren't these the same witches from like the other episode? And my wife was like, yes, and I'm like, do they not remember that there's witches in Star Wars? She's like, I don't know what's going on. It was so over the top stupid. I'm sorry if you were part of that stupid phase of life being stupid. You were stupid, and so it caused us to want to create this podcast, Mind Over Media, to see if we're watching the same shows. Again, as a fan that's not. I'm not wholly invested. Like my heart's not in it. I just, I'm learning about the world and what the story is. So I'm paying attention to the story, and all this crazy, just ridiculous theories about these shows are emerging. And it was really hard to get into Star Wars. It made me hate it a little bit, not because I was seeing those things, it's because those things weren't there. And then I was like, what's wrong with the fans of Star Wars? The fans of Star Wars are just making shit up, just making it up. And so that was hard to get into. It kind of like pushed me away. It repelled me a little bit because I thought the fans were a little bit nuts.
Well, fans of most sci-fi shows are a little bit nuts.
Not the fans of Aliens. We don't do that. Except for the Ripley needs a love interest, and we squashed that by having the alien immediately stab people when they fell in love.
So that aside, we're going to have a segment on our show called "Are We Watching the Same Show?" Because the whole stuff about the Acolyte is just the strangest, most bizarre claims that we ever heard. Literally, we're like,
what are they talking about?
Yeah. So we'll get into that whenever we eventually talk about that specific show it more in depth, which we will. Over time, and so now we'll move on to Star Wars and current politics. Do you know Do you know what 47 did today?
No.
Okay, you should
Something
go.
stupid.
Yeah, on the whitehouse.gov website.
Oh no.
You can go look
Oh
it up.
no.
He
I feel
posted
sad.
a May the 4th meme
Okay, that's not bad.
of himself
Okay, so I knew it was gonna. I knew it was turning somewhere.
looking really, really buff,
Oh boy. Okay.
as if he's like a Dark Lord or something.
Really? Why do you want to be a Sith? Pick the good side.
But then he went and accused the entire lunatic left of being the Sith Lords. And by the way, you guys are the Empire, we're the rebels. That's what he said. You guys, that's not funny. Just not funny.
Not funny.
Not funny.
Not even a little bit.
Blood. That's not funny.
Meme references.
Yeah. So, yeah, that, I mean, I don't think we need to say anything else about that.
No.
I mean, sure, we can, but.
I could say a lot about it, but I'm just gonna leave it at where's his handlers?
Right?
Where are his
That's what you talk
handlers
about
at?
Britney Spears and,
Like where's this
and
dude's
what's the other
handlers?
guy's name? Kanye West. We're like,
Yeah.
where are the handlers?
Where are they? Sheesh. Okay, anyway.
So, so yeah, Star Wars is interestingly applicable to our current times. Again, all about the balancing of the light and the dark, right? So, the theory goes that if we go too far light, then, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so it's eventually going to turn, And if we go too far dark, then too many people die, basically. So, keeping the balance will prevent that, like eventual turn to corruption.
Yeah, like so an example of that would be the story of the Acolyte. The Jedi, the female, I forget her name. I apologize. I'm new to the fandom, but the Jedi female, she is in the best interest of good, going way too far. Way too far to the good, to the point where it corrupts. She makes mistakes because she thinks she's doing the right thing for people, and she actually ends up hurting people in doing the right thing. And
it's Vernestra, yeah.
And then, when we're talking about the dark side,
Well,
of course,
Indara.
you go too far dark, and then you start hurting people because you want power and prestige, and you become selfish. So,
yeah. So it's I think General Vernesta, who anyway that's a big spoiler, but
sorry about that.
that's okay. The Acolyte is a story that's like, again, we'll get it. We'll have a whole other episode about this, but it's a story that takes place 100 years prior to the initial events.
Yeah.
Of Star Wars. So it's sort of,
She is not a night monster like me.
yes. So it sort of lays in a little bit of like history and foundation and a concept of the Force converging. So and so it's an interesting story where you discover that the twins are actually one, but have been split into two. And I mean, ironically, that is what a twin is. But even more so, they are the Force split into two. And so it explains the concept of why there's a light side and a dark side to begin with. But very interestingly, both twins, their light side and dark side, when they have an interesting balance where one of them has more, even as children, has more care and concern for the art of fighting, for instance. And the other has more care and concern for peace, right? So that's like showing their opposites. But even still, when push came to shove, both twins were able to show easily the opposite of that as well. So the peaceful one was easily able to pick up a sword and fight, and the one that was more into fighting was easily able to lay down and become peaceful. So I mean, despite the anger that she had, it's a long story. You have to watch it, but yeah. So so that has heavy influence, I think, by our current, I guess, like political climate, I guess. So there's certainly a major struggle with the dichotomy that's issued out today. So we almost barely have a center in politics anymore. It's
Yeah.
we're almost called to not have a center right now, because because the very edges of each side is bordering dangerous, and so it's a call to like fix those edges with sort of normal thinking, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
and then you have people who are like, oh, I take no sides, but yet they have the talking points of either side. Like they speak, either, uh, the talking points of the right or talking points of the left, whatever it is. They speak those talking points, and you're like, you do realize you're just going off of whatever social media site you're on and just spewing those same points without ever looking anything up or talking about those things, in conversational, you're just saying the points of whatever side you're on and then saying, I have no side. Okay.
I don't know. There seems to be like a commodity of having no side. You know, maybe
Yeah.
people will appreciate you more or listen to you more if you're bipartisan. But the reality is nobody can be bipartisan right now. So so there's no real way to sort of balance that force right now. And I think that's right. In Star Wars, it's when you're in the throes of war between the light and the dark, between the Jedi and the Empire. And so one of the really very amazing things that did come out of both Star Wars Episode 3, I believe, and the Acolyte, if you have seen all these, then is that the Star Wars, I'm sorry, the Sith, who are sort of representative of the dark side, are they're just like the Jedi, with the one exception, is that they are willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to have emotions. They're willing to do. They're willing to kill for the sake of killing. They're willing to do whatever it takes, whatever feels right for them. They're willing to do it. They don't have rules like you need to suppress your emotions. They fully embrace their emotions and in many ways make decisions based on emotions. So that is very apparent that can become in psychology based. That can become that can create chaos whenever you don't have the ability to suppress or control the impulsive thoughts that we have. That can create chaos in our lives. We don't necessarily even want it, but eventually at some point we might embrace it because it's the only thing that we have going for us, you know. So the Acolyte is the Sith apprentice. So just like the Padawan is the Jedi apprentice. And so that TV series is about the apprentice of the Sith. And so so I guess like people who are bad or people who do bad things are people who are and were, generally speaking, perfectly capable of doing good things, you know. However, they started to do bad things, and then those things started to be their primary mode of operation.
Yeah, and I think they were trying to show with the Acolyte that when bad things happen to good people, sometimes they get misguided or blinded by the fact that here was this person who had good intentions and caused something tragic to happen to their group of people, and they wanted revenge. They were so pissed off that they were like, I want to take all these people out because they messed up my life, whether it was, for good intentions or not. So they were showing sometimes if you go too far, with your good intentions, you can cause damage, pain, and hurt to people.
Yep. And so, yeah. So that's, there's so much that can be said about Star Wars in our current political climate, but I think that's probably the best way to say it. We will eventually get more into it and become less coded in our words. But first, we got to figure out how to use all this stuff.
Yeah. I don't know that I don't know that I can be completely coded. I have to watch what I say so that, it doesn't get taken down or things like that. But, um, yeah, I'm going to say what I want to say.
Yeah, that moves us on to critical thinking. So, we are a podcast that promotes critical thinking, and we are doctors, educated, well educated folk. And we believe in education, and we are very proud of our education, and we hope that everyone can have access to education. So, and anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because we really want to promote people to critically think with regards to Star Wars and any other TV shows that they have, about what the difference between storytelling and how people are responding to that and the propaganda that may be subtly involved in the people's response to that. So what do we mean by that? If there's a show being told that goes against the normal, the standard, say the current administration's beliefs, for instance, and then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of people coming out puppeting the same exact words over and over and over again, we have to take a step back and wonder, where is the critical thinking occurring here? And of course, if you ask that to those people, they'll be like, I'm critically thinking,
Yeah, and you're the sheeple. It's you who's the sheeple, and you tell them, here's the talking points that we found online that you are regurgitating. You're not thinking about it. You're not thinking about how it helps you, how you're involved, or how does this pertain to you, and you're just rattling, these talking points off. They get angry with you. Oh, there's you and your education. Are you using education as a pejorative?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
What?
Yeah. Like, why is education a bad thing? Well, in addition, we have things like the meme that was posted from the White House today, in which so now I feel the right, or MAGA or pro-Trump, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't.
The next line that they're going to start saying is that you guys are the empire, we're the rebellion. And because that's how it works. This is like what we're kind of red flagging here, which is the lack of critical thinking skills, right?
Yeah, for example, people have been known to say things like, "Oh my God, I can't get on board with a person, even if they had an accusation of pedophilia. I can't get on board with that. I certainly can't get on board with a person who has raped somebody. There's no way I can get on board with that. And a person that steals from people, there's no way I can get on board with that." And then you say, so you don't like rapists, you don't like pedos, and you can't get on board with a thief. And they're like, "No, I can't get on board with that." So who did you vote for?
Yeah.
And then they just stare at you. Well, certainly not the lady that was a prostitute. And I'm like, the lawyer? Are you talking about the lawyer who has no criminal record? The person that went after criminals? You're talking about that person? You didn't vote for the lawyer. You voted for the thug. Oh, yeah. Felon 47.
Yeah. So
Wow.
as you think about this, when we talk about it, let's break it down real fast. So the empire. So the empire was created by Senator Palpatine, who was actually Darth Sidious, and so he raised up the empire, and he was playing both sides. So he was helping make all the laws and the good guy trying to protect Naboo, and then on the other side of that, he was building great armies, and
he was exploiting the worst and the do-gooders.
Yeah, and so he then he created the Empire when Darth Vader rose. So Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, and so when Darth Vader finally came into full power, Darth Vader was now the Emperor. He was the Emperor. Darth Vader. So he was the Emperor, and he controlled the whole galaxy essentially. But they did so through might. Like there was that, yeah, they provided rations to people, and they provided like order, which is what the citizens would say, well, I appreciate the order that's come. I appreciate the things that now things make a little more sense to me, and it's very predictable. But what? But everything was certainly far too strict in general. So, and there were massacres involved. There were Anakin himself massacred all the Jedi, or young and small. I mean, young and big. And he, didn't have any problems doing it. It appeared.
But we have to look at how he got to that point, and I think that that's even being again a new Star Wars fan. How he got to that point is even more important than him being at that point. So how he got there, which is being kicked around, told he wasn't good enough, in the secrecy of like, we're going to tell him later, but right now we're just going to keep kicking him around and not listening to him and not taking his emotional needs seriously. He's obviously in a mental health crisis. He's having a hard time, and they're just, do this, do this, do this, do this. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to take my life into my own hands, and I'm going to, do these things. And then he thinks that the woman he loves doesn't love him. And we've all been there when a woman's like, I love you. But like, there's all these, bad things have happened. And he's like, you're a liar. You don't love me. And so you understand like his pain and his suffering. And then he does the unthinkable. And I'm not excusing the unthinkable. I'm just saying, you watch this path of like, how loud did he have to cry out for help? How loud did he have to scream, hey, I'm not doing okay? And I think that harkens to our actual reality, where there's a lot of people out there that need mental health help. They're crying out for help. They're screaming out into the atmosphere of somebody, please, anybody, help me. And no one comes to help them. And then they do the unthinkable, and like, oh, this horrible person, He was bad. We're not condoning violence. He shouldn't have done what he did, but his path there is very clear.
And a lot of the dark side of his path started when he had to take revenge for his mother. And that was his first massacre. And he struggled with a lot of guilt of that. He was a pretty pompous kid in general. He always was. I mean, he was, racing cars. I mean, like, I'm the best racer there is.
But he was.
Well, he hadn't had a race up until that point, so...
But he still was.
Right, he still won. But he was pretty pompous, and so he was afraid. He was a child, But so being taken and removed from his home and just unsure of what life was going to be like, But more so, I think his guilt really started after he massacred the... Was it Tusken Raiders, maybe?
Yeah.
After they took his mom and killed her. So that was the beginning of his corruption, and of course, along with being mentored by Senator Palpatine, and like kind of being seduced into that dark side of like, well, if you follow the Jedi rules, and you can only do so many things, but if you follow the Sith rules, then you can fully feel love. You can fully feel all these feelings, and it's your wife is dying, so that you can save her by doing this, and so a lot of like insidious indoctrination occurred to get Anakin to go over into the dark side. It wasn't just like he woke up one day and he decided to just start oofing people. I'm only a fan of Darth Vader because he was able to see his mistakes and come back at the end. But I'm not a fan of the dark side.
I do think that Anakin, they do show that he was groomed by Senator Palpatine. He was groomed when a bad thing happened. Palpatine was right there to say, oh, they treated you bad. I'm sorry, son. I would never treat you that way. And that happens. People get led astray by people that are like, I can't believe that person did that to you. But they may not have your best interest. They're just trying to, seduce you into what they want you to do. And that does happen to people in real life. And so I think Star Wars did a good job of showing that.
Yeah. So we want to encourage you as you move through life and politics and this world to like, take a look at that meme if you can handle the absurdity on it. And try to like break down, how do you know who's the Empire and who's the Rebellion?
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Rebellion hat, by the way.
I am the Empire.
How do you know? No, she's part of the Rebellion. She just likes the concept of the dark side. But anyway, she likes power is what she likes. But anyway, so so how do we know what side would be what, right? Because of course we know that like the Empire is considered the bad guys, right? Trump is not going to stand there and go, we are the bad guys. That's not what's going to happen, right?
Right.
But he might say, I could be a bad guy standing out in the middle of,
Fifth
Avenue
and kill someone, and all my supporters would still support me.
Yeah. So, but now, now there's going to be a whole rash of people talking about how they're in the rebellion. Well, we have been utilizing the term rebellion, I guess, ever since 47 came into office, and so they have been talking like creating groups of resistance and things like that, groups of resistance and rebellion, and so just be very careful as you move forward, not to trust people based on their use of the word rebellion. Now that Trump has signaled to his followers that they are the rebellion. So
yes, remember, groomers are going to groom. That's what they do.
Yeah. All right. So now we're off of our soapbox on that. We're going to go ahead and talk about some of the merch. Again, we're moving. I invested more in Star Wars this year than I did in Aliens. I have like action figures. I have a whole bunch of Funko Pop, but I hate Funko Pop.
I have action figures. I had statuettes.
We have it still, but
it's just packed away.
Yeah. So we're gonna, in our new home, we're going to make a wall of different fandoms, so that whenever we film, the wall of that fandom will be behind us. Like we're gonna have a Fallout wall and
Fallout.
Yeah, or bookshelf or whatever,
Yeah.
But there's plans. So, but anyway, so the things that we still have that we purchased, we'll show you now.
Okay. So,
we can also link them in our video as well.
This is a nifty, beautiful ring that I got for this day. Let's see, I don't know if I can show you
Did you get it or did I get it?
Sorry, my wife got it for me. I don't know if I could show you the writing. I'm going to try. There we go. And, this is a great little gift to get somebody who's a fan. I collect stuff.
So this is a Jedi ring. So she's not a fan of Jedi, she's a fan of Sith, but they didn't really have a Sith ring.
No.
But that is the Jedi symbol.
I had it hidden on purpose. And if you guys watch, she actually rolled it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ring. So
it's a beautiful ring.
I invested a lot of money into it.
She rolled it to that symbol right there, and I was trying to hide that.
Yeah. Don't hide. No, this is not the same symbol.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, she's blind.
I thought it was.
That's a Jedi. Right. This is the rebellion.
Yeah, she's right. I'm wrong. She's right.
I usually am right.
Anyway, the next thing I got is a deck of Sith cards. Well, it's not really Sith cards, but it's dark side cards. So it's different dark side characters in it. It is sealed. I apologize. I don't want to open it because
we actually collect a whole bunch of cards. Grab mine over there. And we were thinking of like the only thing, she's not going to buy light side stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I do. So there's actually a whole series of these by Theory. I think it's Theory 11. Yeah, Theory 11. And so, oops, is that right? There's a whole series that comes together, and the other one that matches the red one, this one, is blue. So it's blue foil. And that one's Jedi. So there's the Sith, and then Jedi, and then the light side and the dark side. So the light side and the dark side are instances of the Force, which is the the power or the pressure or the entity or the spirit or whatever you want to call it that interconnects everything and everyone. The Jedi and the Sith are those that interact with the Force. People or some kind of species that can interact with the Force and manipulate the Force to do things. So,
Yeah, and we have a lightsaber. I want to say it's not here. It's packed away. I want to say is it Skywalker's?
I don't know.
I think it's Skywalker's. But it is a really cool gift to give somebody. They are like life size lightsabers. They make really cool noises. They light up. They're great. They run around $300 to $500 depending on which ones you buy. The one that we have was around $400, but it is the coolest collectible gift if you want to give somebody a lightsaber.
And they have multiple
they have different
ones
kinds
of those. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next thing.
All right, so as my wife said, I am a huge fan of Rey. As I was getting into Star Wars, there was a lot of chatter about this, petulant young person who's so annoying, and she just stole the show and emasculated all the men. So I was like, oh, let me see who this character is. And yes, she's a petulant young person, but she wasn't really emasculating Kylo Ren. She was like, she wanted him. I'm like, let that happen. Like, why are we stalling this? Let this flow. Let this flow. And they did not. And it was very...
No, because they're Jedi.
It is very annoying that they didn't let it flow. Let it flow. But she won my heart with the struggle that she had within her to remain good. I mean, hell, at the end of it, she was all the Jedi. I was like, yeah. I was waiting for her eyes to light up yellow, her hood to come on, her lightsaber to turn red, because she was all of them. And no, she was really a good person, a good-natured person, and so she didn't do that. That was very sad that
well,
didn't happen.
I want to come back to this because the Rey represents Rey and Kylo Ren represent the second, I believe it's the second convergence in the Force. So this is something that's not really explained very well, but the acolyte was the representation of the first known convergence in the Force. So the Force itself created the twins and then converged to light and dark. And so Rey and Kylo, even though they're not like twins, the Force that was in them, the reason why they resonated so well wasn't because they're in love with each other.
It was.
No, it was because they were attracted to each other because they were the same.
They were meant to be.
They were the same strand of the Force, and so they converged, and they converged is the wrong word. They diverted, and so diverged. Yeah, that's it. They divergence of the Force. Yes. So they diverged, and so they're attracted to each other in the sense that they're part of that same line of the Force.
Positive and negative.
Yeah, but not because there's actual chemical attraction.
There was chemical attraction. She put all her lips on Kylo. I was so happy. And they do it.
But so did Inara.
That's Firefly. Wrong show. We are not this show. We'll talk about that later.
We'll have a Firefly show.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Okay, so this is Rey's
Alexa, ignore.
Rey's survival guide to what's the place she's from?
Jakku.
Jakku. I cannot.
Yeah,
say
that's
that.
this background here.
So this is her survival guide on how to survive there. I think it's super cute, and so I was like, "Oh, this is so adorable! It's all about Rey, so I'm gonna get it."
Yeah. So Jakku used to be a whole water planet, and then there was an event that occurred, and then it became a desert planet. So. So yeah, I love sugar skulls a lot. So whenever I found the most comfortable socks that I don't usually like to wear those like fancy decorative socks because I have weird feet and I have like I have an autoimmune disorder called Sjogrens, I don't know how to pronounce it. And then another one called dermatomyositis. And kind of the combination of that makes me have Velcro skin. So I can
So she could stick to walls and crawl like Spider-Man.
So like I can stick to microfiber, and it's so annoying. And I'm also autistic, and just the sticking to, and I think there's a few other people that can't touch microfiber, but I literally have like a Velcro response to it. And these socks I do not, which is nice. It was a little bit, but anyway. So I found Star Wars Sugar Skulls. Yes, and they are so comfortable. They're like they're just about my size. I have really weird like size
little.
size 8 shoes, so it's like right in the middle. And so either the socks are too small and they touch my toes, which is also a thing I don't like, or they're relaxed. These are relaxing on my toes, so that's really good. Anyway, I've already worn like most of them since I got them, which was the other day. But they have C-3PO, R2-D2, so like that. I love them. All right, so.
All right, I had planned on having coffee, but was thwarted by my eating choices, so I didn't drink coffee because I wanted to do the podcast without having to leave. So this is a wonderful Sith Lord cup featuring Vader, and yeah, but I just thought this was cute to have for anybody that likes collecting Star Wars stuff.
If you watched our last episode, our first ever episode, then you have watched us erroneously open a whole package excitedly. You're like, what's in it?
What's in it?
Well, I'm going to show you what's in it, what was in it.
It was the wrong day.
Yeah, the wrong day. So this little bracelet says, "May the Force be with you." And so that was what was in that. And I have to take it off, but yeah. I am a huge fan of jewelry. I think jewelry is cute, but it also is a sensory issue for me too, so I don't typically wear jewelry a whole lot.
This is true. She's like, "I'm sorry, honey.
Like, I'm not wearing my wedding
I didn't
ring.
mean to not wear my wedding ring."
I forget. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Especially when we're going places that it's probably best to have my ring on. And then I'll walk with her and look at her hand, but she's faithfully wearing her rings. Always. And then I am like, crap, worst wife ever.
Oh no.
All right, so anyway, now the thing that I thought was cute about these is last episode we debuted our new vinyl record player, and in that we debuted our album of Taylor Swift.
Swifties.
Yeah, and Swift is the one who brought back the friendship bracelet. And so here we are tying both episodes together, because this is what we opened last week. And it's totally a Taylor Swift type thing to do.
Swifties.
Yeah. So.
All right.
And then I bought this for our new house.
We have to have a key rack, or we have keys to everything.
We have people with ADHD in our family.
Yes, and they just go missing. Yeah, so we have to have the keys, or put the keys where the keys go, so we don't lose keys.
So I don't lose keys.
Right. This is true, so she doesn't lose keys. All right, we got 2 more deals here. So I believe it was last year. I bought a game called Destiny, and it featured Rey on the cover, and I was like, I don't know what it is. It's a Star Wars game, but Rey is on the cover, so it must be good. It must be. And so I bought it, and this year I bought the expansion to that game. So I have the expansion here, and it's called Force and Destiny. It's a RP. I love RPs. I have the Alien RPs, all of them. Yeah, all of them. And the board game. And I have the Destiny board game. So I have Rey's board game too. So yeah, so this is the expansion I got. And the best for last, and the reason I say that the best for last is because as I was getting into the Star Wars fandom, there was just a lot of like, oh my God, Star Wars has all these women that are emasculating men, and I just had to see these women. Who are they, and how are they emasculating all the men of Star Wars? How? Like and I don't just mean the new ones. You guys think I'm talking about they're emasculating all the new men. No, Han Solo. Like in the past, like old Han Solo, they emasculated him, and I just had to see who these crazy women were that were just taking all the men out. And of course,
just grabbing them by the peanuts and just
squeezing them. Who are these women that are squeezing them? And it just wasn't there. Like, I mean, there's some really strong women there. They're great companions and sidekicks and counterparts to the men in the show. But they're not emasculating them.
Feminism is not about emasculating men.
Yeah.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but
it was so silly. But
in feminism, in true feminism, both genders can exist peacefully.
Yeah, and it's so weird. Like there's two women in one of the episodes, and the women were married, and they like kissed each other, and the whole crazy sphere of the internet was like, oh my God, two women kissed. It's all about lesbianism and fighting the patriarchy. And I'm like, aren't they just two married women? Yeah, that's all it was. They weren't fighting any patriarchy. They were just like,
there was no men there.
Right, they're just like, we're witches.
There was
no
patriarchy.
Female coven. We got girl kids. Like it was weird. So anyway, I want to know who these I can't say the words that I'm thinking. Peanut crushers. I want to know who they were, and so I got the book of the Women of the Galaxy, so I can read about who they were. And this is, I want to butcher her name, Ahsoka. I say her name wrong all the time, and she's like this animal-like thing with horns.
Okay.
A goat thing.
It's not a goat, no.
I really don't know what she is.
She's
a creature.
Female. Yeah,
she's a female creature of some kind. She has a green friend named Hera, I believe.
Yeah, Hera's right.
Who also has like some
They're different creatures. So
has some kind of tentacle things, But I watched her show, and people were like, "Oh my God, she emasculates all the men in the show," and I'm like, "Really?" And she's what's the word? She's straightforward. She says what she wants. She does what she wants. And she doesn't want help from anybody, male or female. She's like, I could do it by myself. And so I don't know how that's emasculating, but apparently if you say you could do it by yourself, you're a peanut crusher. And so, that's her.
So Ahsoka is a Togruta, and Hera is a Twi'lek. They're different species.
They're creatures of some kind.
They're people.
Yeah.
So the Togrutas have usually two horns, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're called horns, and then they have spikes at the top. The Twi'leks have three, so they have one down here and one down the back. Twi'leks are known for their ability to entertain, due to the way the sound emits from their horns. But Togrutas also tend to be entertainers, but they are not.
Yeah, and then the back of the book
that's not their normal
features the queen of the peanut crushing.
Apparently,
because she took the last name Skywalker.
She took it. She
just took it, crushed the peanuts, apparently. And so she's on the back of it. And again, I didn't see any peanut crushing. I saw a lot of heartbreak in the fact that they didn't let her turn dark. She was going there. She had the hood. She had the red, staff. And I was like, go for it. And he's like, take my hand, baby. And she's like, I got it, daddy. And they were like getting ready to get together.
No. She did not just say daddy. No.
And then it just all fizzled out. And I don't know what that was about.
Because she enveloped and embraced the Force. The light side, the Jedi, and they don't get, one of the rules is they don't have love entanglements because it complicates their work.
It was already complicated. We were watching it going, okay, she's about to kiss him now. Jesus, they're fighting again.
Right, because she hadn't fully embraced the Jedi.
And one of my favorite scenes with him, I know I'm veering off course for the merch, but one of my favorite scenes with him is like, she's in another place, he's in another place, and they're reaching through this fire, and they're trying to touch their fingers, and they're trying to touch, and they go to touch, and then here comes Luke, sitting there blocking stuff. Like, why you gotta come in? She almost had it. You know it should happen. Just let it happen. So anyway, we got the...
But part of the, like, significance of why Rey was able to get in touch so easily with that dark side of her was, as it turns out, was supposedly she is Senator Palpatine's granddaughter.
Yeah.
But they don't really do a good job. I don't know why. There's a... Yeah, so we have, like, gestures that come on, so I don't know why. We just got a dumb...
Because she said Palpatine with a voice that was negative. And Palpatine heard that. Palpatine was like, who you giving a thumbs down to?
I'm probably... I don't know. Those gestures are weird. I gotta figure out how to turn them off. Anyway, because now it just makes me think the universe doesn't like me.
Thumbs down.
But anyway, so supposedly she's the granddaughter, but the story doesn't really line up, and there's, fan theories that are just like bull crap, because in the beginning when they talk about her parents leaving her and stuff like that, it just doesn't line up. So we think that was a weird, like, last minute write up about that.
It could have been, and again, I'm a new Star Wars fan. If it's not, suspending people's disbelief, sure, okay, they're having a hard time with it, but just roll with it so they can make another one to clean it up like they did with the Alien franchise. They'll always clean up their stories if the fans, yell out into the internet sphere, hey, this is not lining up. They always clean up with a sequel because they want your money. They want your money.
And indeed, there is supposed to be a new TV series coming out, or a TV series, I think, about Rey. Yeah, that's right. It's the first long-running actual Star Wars
and I'm there
main
for
story TV series that's supposed to follow up with Rey's storyline. So
yeah, and she can't even have her love interest because I can't tell you because I'll tell you. Spoiler: if you don't want to know what happens, get out of here. 1, 2, 3. They disintegrated him. Can you believe that? They disintegrated her love interest. She gave him a kiss. She was so happy. Her face was all lit up. His face was lit up, and then I turned to ashes. Peanut crusher.
Good.
Really?
Yeah, I did not like Kylo Ren. He was a whiny little bastard.
He was whiny, but he was so adorable. Rey is whiny. They deserved each other.
Well, anyway, so
get this book, Women of the Galaxy. It features all the peanut crushers, and the queen of peanut crushing. It's gonna be good.
You would think that Leia was the queen of peanut crushing.
You would think that because she was the first peanut crusher. Even when she was a little girl, she was just a peanut crusher. She was like, I don't need you.
I can do everything on myself.
I can do everything by myself.
You're a bad man.
Apparently, that's how you get that title that you crush peanuts and emasculate men, is saying, I can do it by myself. I don't need you. I don't need you, peanut crusher.
So, so that brings our podcast to a conclusion. We are about 4 minutes over, but that's okay. Yeah. Hopefully it'll go up.
I would apologize for making fun of the people that are crying about stuff, but it doesn't line up, and so I have to make fun of you because it's just not there. It's not tracking for me. I'm not seeing all the fighting the patriarchy and women just like coming in there with their nutcrackers and doing so. I'm not seeing none of that, so I have to make fun of you.
And if you have hurt feelings because of you being made fun of, then I truly feel for you. And there is a suicide warm line called just dial 988, and you can get some help on that. I'm not making light of this. This is a serious matter. Trump almost had that defunded last week. In fact, it was defunded for a short, like 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then they were able to give the funding back for that. But it's very important that remains funded because it saves thousands and thousands of lives daily, practically. So if you are having trouble with a feeling of self-worth. You don't have to be in the throes of suicide in order to call, or the throes of wanting to off yourself in order to call. You could just be having a hard time. You could just be at the end of your ropes of people making fun of you, or whatever reason it is that
Yeah.
you have to call.
There's Sith bullies around.
Yeah. Then you can call 988 and get some support and help. Also, there are therapists that are available in your area. There's a website called Psychology Today. No, we are not getting paid for this. I just very much care about people's mental health, whether or not we're on the same political spectrum.
This is correct.
So please seek out therapy if you need it. And we hope that you have a wonderful day. And we will be back after we
I
we
think
have.
for Star Trek Day, right? It's coming
No.
up. No?
No, we're gonna do a normal episode
Okay.
next. Probably maybe a weekly episodes for now. We have a very busy week ahead of us, so we won't be able to focus on this until maybe next weekend. Maybe we'll do this a Sunday night thing.
Yeah, because there's a lot
Maybe
I wanna talk
earlier in the night because I keep
yawning all the time.
Yeah.
And there are things I want to talk about that I didn't get to talk about today that are in the whiny sphere, about things that are actually not happening in shows.
Yeah, but I think some of that we can go. We'll plan it, but go show by show or episode by episode.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the show You, not today, not tonight, but we're going to talk about the show You and a crazy phenomenon that happened with the fans.
She's going to talk about the show You
yeah.
because I don't believe in the show You.
Well, and that's why we're going to talk about the crazy phenomenon that happened with the fans, which is something they didn't recognize in the show that they need to. That, we should not be championing some things that people are like, this is the great thing. And so I think as people who are, in the field of mental health, we do need to talk about that because it is a serious topic and it is a strange phenomenon that the show You brought to light.
Yeah, maybe we'll try to bring some research on that too.
Yeah.
Like actual research.
Actual research.
So, all right. And with that, have